Okay, perfect. So then also just for future reference, we have a YouTube channel for the bid. It's just the Temescal district on YouTube. So after this, I'll go ahead and upload it so that you all can come back to it, refer back and share with anyone else that might be interested. All right. So yeah, as y'all know, we posted the artist call a few weeks back now. And just to give you a general overview of the project, the Temescal district partnered with the Dr. Huey P. Newton Foundation and Made in Color to originally apply for a Kenneth Rainin grant that would give us this opportunity that we're in the midst of now, which is developing out the concept for an art installation that'll honor the history of the Black Panther Party and their legacy in Temescal. And so essentially we've got this really central culturally significant space in the district that the original Casper's Hot Dogs has been located on for, I believe, 100 years now. It's at the intersection of Telegraph and 45th, and it's sort of a flat iron little triangle of a building on a triangular plot of land that has a lot of significance. Huey Newton and his wife Frederica, who we're working with, would go to Casper's every week back in the day. They were on a first name basis with the owners. The owners were an immigrant family from Eastern Europe who had just a really vast range of clients, ranging from like political figures to the Panthers, to like Metallica, and every big band and name that passed through East Bay found themselves at the original Casper's in its heyday. So that building, Casper's, is getting ready to reopen this year. So it's going to bring a lot of life back to that block. And we're just looking to further build out the space, make it more of a space for community, to host more programming there. And yeah, ultimately just install something that speaks to the community and serves it. So let's see. So our goals with the project, as I mentioned, we want to develop a more inclusive identity for the district. A lot of people, when we talk about the history of Temescal, say like, oh, it was an Italian neighborhood. Or, they think of how it is today with, all of the, fancy restaurants and retail and everything. But we want to also just sort of broaden people's understanding of the district and recognize and celebrate that there's so much rich history there. And really the Black Panther Party, its inception really Temescal was central to the inception. Huey went to Oakland Tech, and the first Panther headquarters was in the district before they established in West Oakland. So we just want to sort of build out that history a bit more and celebrate it in the community. Let's see, Jenna, did I miss anything before we hop into the site overview?
I think the only other thing, but I think we can keep going, is just themes. But I'm happy for you to keep going into site and materials, and I can lace that in later if that's helpful.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
So this is this map shows sort of the space and dimensions that we're working with. In 2020, my organization, The Bid, worked with the city to close off this last block of Shattuck Avenue before it intersects with Telegraph. We also built out this round space at the end that just more firmly closes it off to cars and creates a viable pedestrian plaza. It's about 170 feet long, 170 feet of street that is, again, close to cars. So there's a lot of freedom in what we can now do with that space. In a minute, I'll do the street view share so that you all can get a better idea of the area itself if you haven't had a chance to check out the space already. And we're already hosting a lot of programming in this space. We have the Freedom Farmers Market, which is a local farmers market that celebrates specifically Black and other marginalized groups of farmers in California. And we also had a pop-up resource village for unsheltered individuals that was there every week. That has since moved to another location, but we would love to, through this project and just future developments in the plaza, build this out again to just make it, whether it turns into a green space or, you know, a sculpture garden or, you know, a performance space. There's really a lot of freedom in the direction that we could go, but we want to really facilitate just community events and engagement on this location. So just to give you an idea of the goals around the installation, we have been, like I said, working with the Huey Newton Foundation. Frederica, who is the founder of the organization, just in recognition that there are a number of Black Panther Party murals throughout Oakland already. We are hoping to sort of think outside the box and beyond the just basic concept of a mural. We've essentially got a lot of other options and ideas and suggestions from these community events of what it could be if not a mural. And we're really excited to be working with all of you and all of your different mediums to see what we can come up with here. So we don't have a specific medium that we're set on working with at this time. We know that we probably don't want a mural, but yeah, whether it's, you know, wood or glass or metal or something entirely different, we're very open to ideas. The things to keep in mind, though, are that this is a very centrally located space in a very busy business corridor. So materials are going to need to be durable and designed to withstand vandalism or graffiti. Whether this is stone, metal, glass, recycled content, anything else, the real ask is that it's something permanent, something durable, something that we can maintain and on an ongoing basis so that this can become really a permanent fixture in the district. You know, so that just means keeping in mind, like, can this be tagged? Can this, you know, be broken or stolen or removed or anything? So we can talk more about that. But I'll go ahead and switch to the street view just to give you all a better feeling of the space. I realize this is from a few years ago. It hasn't been updated with that sort of bulb at the end of the plaza that I mentioned. So now it is rounded out, completely closed off to cars on both ends. Casper's Hot Dogs is right here. This is that 170 feet of street that I mentioned. Across the street, we've got McDonald's, we've got Bird and Buffalo, some beautiful murals over here. So essentially now Shattuck comes down, curves over and goes around the plaza as far as cars go. So we have this whole space that is really about to come to life. Casper's is going to have a parklet out here and some outdoor dining. It's going to be go back to being a hot dog restaurant with beer and wine. So once they open, we want to just really keep adding to that liveliness and community space feel. This bike share station, we worked with the city to get that relocated, so it's no longer in the center of the plaza, which is great and opens up some more possibilities for us. This here is where it's now rounded out as a sidewalk to close that off. And then you'll see we have just a lot of space and a lot of options. We have street pole banners that we can put up here. This whole block is really our playground in terms of this project. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the screen share so I can look back at the agenda.
You're doing really good. You're great. I don't know if you want to share any photos from the Casper's folder, then we can do that. But otherwise, I think that you've covered most of the site and material section.
Okay. Awesome. So then I'll just give you guys a quick rundown of the past events that we mentioned. And then Jenna can jump into sort of the themes and things that we've gathered, because I know that was one of your questions that came up at the beginning. So essentially, the grant that we received allowed us to put on a series of community events that started with a big kickoff event that we had at the Logan in Temescal. And then we launched our community conversation series. We hosted 3 panel style events that were open to the community. The first was a panel moderated by myself that focused on Casper's history. So we had Harry Yegligian, who is of the family that opened Casper's decades ago, speaking to just the history and the clientele and community that he saw over the decades of working there with his father and family before him. We also had Ricky, who owns Rooted in the 510, which is a cannabis equity dispensary in the district, speaking to being a newer business owner in the district, a Black business owner, part of the City of Oakland's cannabis equity program. And then our third speaker was Kufu, who is a local artist and muralist who actually worked with another artist, Tion Torrance, to have a series of rotating murals that were gracing the walls of Casper's Plaza for the past 10 to 15 years while it's been closed. And then the second panel event was focused more on the Black Panther history in Temescal. So that was moderated by Dr. Xavier Buck, who's the executive director of the Huey Newton Foundation. And we had Frederica Newton on the panel. We had Dana King, who did the Huey bust that was unveiled in West Oakland, I believe last year. We also had legacy Black Panthers, Catherine Campbell and Clark Bailey. And that was a really interesting event for us to just sort of delve into, what it is we mean when we speak of the legacy of the Black Panthers, what that looks like today, what the work going on both in the past and present looks like, and how this space and this installation can really celebrate, reflect, and facilitate just more of that community service and work that the party did. And then our third and final event was hosted by Jenna, or moderated by Jenna and Tion, the other muralist who I mentioned. And that featured artists like Rifa One and Malcolm Ryder, who did a photo series of Casper's, and a handful of other artists that have worked on Black Panther related projects over the past few years in the Bay Area. So from those, we got a ton of feedback from the community of what themes they'd like to see reflected, what utility we'd like to get out of this space. And we've developed sort of a guiding document of those themes that I believe we can share probably with you all, just to provide some further context of what the feedback we've gotten thus far is, what themes we're looking at, and just as a note, we're open to other themes as well. These are all sort of jumping off points that we wanted to then pass along to the artist to further interpret. So Jenna, if you want to walk us through some of those themes.
Absolutely. Should I screen share or just talk us through?
Either way, I can give you screen share ability.
All right. So this is a document that our team has been working on, again, to digest Doesn't seem like I can. Give me just 1 second. Later. Okay. I am not able to screen share, unfortunately. Katie, I can definitely drop you the link though, if you want to, but because of my computer setup, I'll need to quit and rejoin to do it.
Okay, I can screen share if you want.
Okay, great. Do you have the link, Candy? Let me check.
Yeah, if you could drop it, that'd be helpful.
Great. There you go. So these themes that we've identified essentially have been folks on our team that have attended all of the events, that have kind of combed through the transcripts, that have taken notes from what the community has really suggested in this space. It's really a working document, I think one that can be teased out even more. And it also includes really some of our initial thoughts from our conversation with Frederica. Frederica Newton of the Huey P. Newton Dr. Huey P. Newton Foundation has been heavily involved in this project and will continue to, especially as we finalize the concept for this space. One of the main themes that we identified was like community powered. And I think this is really also relating back to the ideals of the party. But the other side of this is just like, how do we amplify sides of the Black Panther Party that have not been amplified before? Is that the woman of the Black Panther Party? Is that the softness and the love that was at the root of the work and the humanity ultimately, right? That they were humans, that they were between 19 and 22 years old, right? And so I think that's something really to keep in mind as you do begin to think about your concept is like, how do I have an angle that is unique in what we're sharing? Something else was futuristic. And this has been something that I also personally thought about is just like, how do we in this installation think about how the Black Panther Party from Temescal district impacted the world, right? And how do we involve elements into this installation potentially that are futuristic? So is there a VR component, right, that takes place? Other things we saw come up were accessibility, intergenerationality, right? So can this installation speak to children and the youth, as well as the young adult and the elder? Something that came up was legacy, right? Protecting the Black Panther legacy, which I think is obvious. And also the collaborative nature of the party, right? And how really the Black Panther Party and the work that they did was also collaborative with the Brown Berets and other active groups, and also a point of inspiration for those folks. Really what the rest of this document jumps into is it goes deeper into each of those themes and then examples. So the examples are things that were captured by the audience and notated to connect to a theme. So something that's come up is like, can this space be sacred, right? Is it a space where kids can learn about the party? How do we use it as a space? I think someone mentioned like they did a pop-up clinic, right? Like how can we preserve this space and still use it for community activations that carry forward the values of the party? There are some quotes from the panelists, and you can keep kind of scrolling down. Some things that really came up a lot, folks talked about it being green. Can it be a garden? Can it be a place where things are growing? Can it be homeless friendly, right? Is it welcoming to all folks? How does it lean into the 10-point platform? The living landmark note there is around the greenery and the plant life that could exist. Go ahead and keep going down to accessibility, multi-sensory. There's a futuristic part of it, which is like QR, VR. Folks are like, hey, like, what does it look like to be able to scan something and get more information? And then the last thing is this intergenerationality of it, right? Involving young voices in the conceptualization of it. And this is something that I think Katie and I have become aware of, and we're actually, the last demographic I think we'll speak to is some students from a school in the neighborhood to really hear like, what does this mean for them, right? What do they want to see in their community? I think we have a really great grasp of what folks in the 25 plus to senior category are looking for. So yeah, these are the themes. I'm happy to pause here and Katie, unless there's anything else you want me to share from this doc at the moment, I'm happy to stop there.
All right, thanks, Jenna. That was super helpful. Yeah, we can pause for questions before we jump into the rest of this. If anybody has any. Ari?
Yeah, so I had two questions. So in the RFP, it says that you all have, I think I remember a mention of landscape architects. Is that like a resource that's going to be available to support this project? Or, I guess I'm wondering what's the intersection between that and like public works and all of those things. Is the artist expected to help kind of shepherd it through?
Great question. So we, and we'll discuss a bit more of the like collaborative nature of the project a bit later, but essentially we are, while we're accepting the RFQs and going through the review process and eventually we'll have a second orientation on site, we are very open to the possibility of, maybe this isn't just one artist getting the full budget and doing the whole thing themselves. Maybe, we find a sculpture artist and a landscape architect and, sort of divide up the responsibility and just the workload a bit. So we are open to, even if you're not applying as a team, sort of building out that team throughout this process as needed and as we identify those needs.
Okay, and sorry, I had one more question within that. Like, as you're identifying like these artists, is part of the scope going to be that community engagement to lead the artist to the concept, or is the expectation, the RFP is kind of just developed and move forward?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? My sound cut out a little.
Oh yeah, sure, no problem. So is the idea that you're going to select the artist based on the RFQ and there's going to be like a longer design development process, or is it essentially that you're going from the RFQ to then accepting like concept proposals and running from there? I'm trying to just suss out how long of a community engagement process there is.
Yeah, so I think that from the RFQs, we will select folks to then essentially be our finalists. And from there, we'll sort of have that on-site workshop with them and then be providing stipends for artists to build out, further develop their proposals and their concepts.
Ari, I just want to jump in. So just to clarify this for everyone, this RFQ part is not about your proposal at all. It's really just qualifications and yeah, I mean, I don't expect that. I think while folks are dreaming of an idea that will then later show up in the RFP process, this is not the space for proposals. So there will definitely be space after this part of the process that is really for bringing that idea to life fully. And I think also at that point, there's also room for the collaborative efforts amongst folks will also begin to reveal themselves as well. And I think for us too, right? Because, I think going into this, the only boundary we had from Frederica was that it was not a mural, which really created while a lot of really brilliant space for us, it also created a really big challenge because we're like, okay, so what is it, right? Like, and how does it come to life? And so I think through this process of seeing like what artists are interested, what do folks actually want to do? What is the capacity? I think, to some extent the budget and the space and that it's outdoors, a number of things I think have provided challenges to Black and Brown artists as well, because maybe you've never created in such a large way, right? But there, again, as Katie said, I think could be ways to like, how do we make the scope more realistic and accessible for folks if that comes out of this space of like, that's what is needed from the artist as well. Does that make sense, Ari, and answer your question?
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you know how many artists you're selecting as semifinalists?
It's notated in the RFQ. Let me see if I can find it. Semifinalists. Selection of semifinalists. Okay, it's anticipated that the panel will recommend up to 8 semifinalists to be interviewed.
Right.
Yeah, up to 8. We'll go till 8, and then in the RFQ process, we go down to 3. Yeah.
And we did recently, thanks to Deborah's suggestion, update the form so that you can apply with a partner, a team, yourself, or as I said, as we're going through this process, when we find that 8 finalists or something, we can also sort of help with the facilitating making of teams that make sense and can then build out their concept together. All right. I also shared a link in the chat for anyone that wants to see more just photos and angles, and also the specs of the plaza. Feel free to browse that folder.
There's another question from Deborah.
Thank you. Is there a place for a statement of intent in the RFQ? So guess, is there anything that you would want from the artist of a beginning of a concept or the?
So the question in the RFQ is, please share a statement of interest. And so it says, describe your experience, your philosophy and approach to public art. Why is participating in this project significant to you? And what would you bring to this project that gives you a competitive advantage?
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Great.
Jason?
Uh-oh, accidental hand raised. I'm sorry, guys.
No problem. All right, Jenna, so should we move on to the project logistics and just touch on those before we open up for Q&A?
I think we should do the project logistics, yes, and make sure that we answered the questions that folks have already shared.
Yes. All right, so in terms of logistics, again, a lot of this is outlined in the RFQ, but just as sort of a reminder and to give you a little bit more context. So in terms of eligibility, the application's open to any artists in the continental US, but we do strongly encourage Bay Area artists as well as Black artists and folks who have a connection to the party, its mission, you know, and if you're in Temescal, all the better. We'd love to have a local artist, but we did choose not to limit it to folks that are in East Bay or the Bay Area, because we do want to just open this up to anyone who is interested and qualified and excited about the project. So let's see, and then in terms of budget, we have the number 200,000 listed in the budget as the number not to exceed. But we did want to mention, as I sort of touched on before, you know, if you're an artist that works in a medium that isn't going to take up that $200,000, we don't want you to be discouraged from applying, because as I mentioned, it doesn't necessarily have to be one big grand installation, one $200,000 statue. It could very easily be, you know, some that's divided up amongst artists to maybe, like I said, one makes a garden and one makes a sculpture and one makes the VR element. So all that to say, you know, whatever scale you're working on, we still want to encourage you to apply. And we can help sort of facilitate from there, find partnerships and ways to incorporate your proposal into other compatible proposals from artists who submit. And essentially our grant funding goes through the end of this timeline here, where we the final product is the final design that we the bid will then use to apply for further grant funding, as well as be fundraising, both from corporate sponsors and individual donors, to get us up to that sum, where we can then move on to implementation. So there's more information about that in the RFQ, but I'll just sort of walk us through the timeline. So we posted the RFQ on February 3rd. It'll be open until March 1st.
Katie, do you
Yeah.
mind just screen sharing?
Yeah. So many tabs open. Oh my gosh. All right. So back to the timeline. There we go. So this is where we are today. Of course, the this sort of information session. The deadline to submit is March 1st. You all have the link to submit your responses. And then once that closes, the beginning of March, we're going to jump into panel review meetings. We're still hammering out the finalists of who exactly is going to be on that panel, but it'll likely be representatives from all three of our organizations. So Made in Color, the Temescal District, the Huey Newton Foundation, as well as likely a representative from the city, and potentially some other interested artists who don't want to apply but want to support the project and help us narrow down our applicants and hopefully and then get to the level where we have semifinalists. So we hope to get there by April 1st. From there, we'll submit, or we will release the RFP, have an on-site orientation in May, where we again are, both introducing ourselves to the semifinalists, introducing everyone to each other, discussing ideas and possible partnerships, as well as just further uses of the space and sort of a brainstorming session. So we will expect to have those proposals submitted by June. Mid-June, we will move on to panel interviews with the semifinalists. That'll again be the same review panel that I mentioned. And then following the interviews, we will move into some more panel review meetings to critique and select the final designs. And then we're looking at this summer having our sort of final community feedback event for the process, where we'll take those three finalist concepts, proposals, and have sort of a open house, if you will, on site at the plaza for just the community to come through, see the ideas that we're working with, give their feedback, and yeah, hopefully help us make a selection on the final design. So that'll be likely in early summer. And then once we've collected all the feedback and responses from the community, we will then be able to select the artists, notify them, enter the contract process, and be able to review the final art design with the public, likely in the late summer. And then this is broken down a bit more below. I can let you all read that through. But I think that that's about it on the timeline. Cheryl?
Thanks. I got back on my computer and off the phone. Question on the budgeting. You said in the RFQ, there's going to be fundraising. So how much of the 200,000 is in hand right now?
So we have not yet secured the funding. We're in the process, we're working with the city and other arts organizations to figure out where that can come from. The Kenneth Rainin grant that we got to develop this concept, we're hoping to, once we have the final concept, then apply for a larger grant that would then fund the actual installation.
I will say in general, so just transparently, the Kenneth Rainin grant we got was $15,000, and it's really had a hard time even carrying us through the part that we're at. And I will say also that we have also been having a lot of conversations internally around fundraising, because we were just going to fundraise for what we needed now. We're actually like, how do we just like actually take the blinders off and start fundraising for the entire effort, right? So fundraising, strategizing, all of those pieces they're already in place. We're not necessarily waiting for the final concept to be selected to be looking for the money. That's already started.
And then in terms of some of the things you've mentioned, I've heard words like video and whatnot. Is there electricity in this plaza, or is that also coming out of the budget that you're fundraising for?
So I don't believe there's currently electricity in the plaza. There is, of course, the Casper's hot dogs business has their electricity. They're on board with this project and have been really supportive and are excited to see the plaza built out and this concept come to life. So that is a possibility. We're happy to facilitate. If it is an installation that requires electricity, we can definitely get them to come to the table and either provide that or work out another solution.
Okay, so there's not like a street light plan or anything right now with the plaza?
I don't believe so. But I don't think that question's come up before, so I can look into it and get some further confirmation.
Okay, great. And then my last question is around permit fees. Same thing. Is the bid taking on the permit fees, or the artist has to take on the permit fees with City of Oakland for the sculpture?
So I believe that, so the bid will definitely help with the process of applying for all of the permits. We work closely with the city, and Public Works and everyone. So happy to lead through the process. And I believe that the permitting fees would be coming out of the overall budget. Yes.
Okay. And then I think because Jenna mentioned it, in the timeline, you were saying you hope to have this installed by 2024?
I think in general, what we're anticipating is installing it in 2024. And that's, I think, just giving ourselves time, right? I think, what we've experienced is we truthfully thought we were going to be presenting to the public this month. That was our initial timeline. It was like, yeah, Black History Month, let's celebrate. And we're like, we're not there yet, right? And so the idea is that, that we share, that we're confirmed, I think really this year we're locked and loaded. And if we need any space and time through fall and winter to work on the permitting, to work on the contracting, to finish any fundraise, any of those things, then we can. Say we're already done, we're like, actually, we're ready to break ground, we're ready to do it, then great. But I think it's just projecting that building will be taking place next year, so that we're realistic and creating enough space and time for any of the nuanced details that come up to be addressed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think what I want to do, Katie, is just a speed round of answers of the questions that already existed, because we didn't get to those. And then also, if folks have other questions, just start to drop them in the chat, because I know we're getting to time and I don't want to keep anyone too long. So the question is there a concept in place already? There's not a concept in place already. There are just the themes and kind of guiding principles that we've been outlining that would be helpful. Again, happy to make those available to you all if that would be helpful in the RFQ process, but no concept already in place. There's a question around timelines between the phases of the project, and wanting to know more about the selection committee and how it is laid out. We are actually meeting with the foundation next week to really talk through all of the selection committee details and how it will be laid out. So there's no real final details around that, but we have really been in contact and we've been in contact with the city of Berkeley and just really have some great information and support for us to get this done in a way that is fair. I think that's something that Katie and I are mindful of since we've been so close to this. Fair, considerate, and brings in expertise. I think something we know is that we need someone who actually has expertise in building installations to actually even check us and let us know, is this realistic? Can this happen, right? So that's where we're at with the selection committee and how it'll be laid out. I think something that we are cognizant of is the fact that we really do want to work with, I think this is, and this is truthful, we really do want to work with a Black artist on this project. And that doesn't mean that the whole team must be Black, right? But I think that there is a need to have some Black folks on the team and participating in the creation of this piece. Yeah, so I want to be transparent about that. Next question is, how do we outreach engagement and get information from the community? So I think something really great is to definitely check out the Temescal Roots Project website. I think we've been trying to do a really great job of keeping the videos and the photos that have been captured from the events housed there. So those you'll be able to get like quick 1-minute snippets of like what happened. Something else that we're thinking to make available is potentially the audio from those conversations and also these theme stocks. I think when we get to the RFP process, that will really be the time when that information will be really helpful towards like finalizing a proposal. And then the format for the initial submission, PDF, video files, really great questions. So in general, a lot of the RFQ is questions that you can plug in directly or links to your web sorter portfolio. When you're uploading your resume or CV, I definitely think PDF is just great just because, you know, no one can edit it, mess it, move things around. So I would say definitely do PDF there because you're uploading a file. I think when it comes to sharing photographs of your top art pieces, you can actually add files here and add multiple files. So there is an opportunity to add files, photo files, video files, and PDF files to your application. Does the budget need to be worked into the initial concept on the first? I don't think that the budget needs to be worked into the initial concept on the first. Again, it's not the proposal. So you're not proposing your idea. You don't have, I think it's just, you're just mindful, right? Like if you're an artist and you've executed, say for instance, Cheryl, right? She knows the cost of executing a glass sculpture. So even in her mind, she's like, okay, if I want to do this, I want to bring this to life. I know the limitations of the budget. I'm still going to shoot my shot because it makes sense. In the RFP, I'll be able to explain and break down the sense of it all, right? So that's the answer to that. And then lastly, would we be expected to come with art fabricators or can we be connected with folks that can support with this? I want to be honest with you. I really think that Katie and I, this has been such a beautiful collaborative process. I get off a lot of calls with Katie and Jamie previously. I'm just like, wow, the genius between these women of different backgrounds and spaces collaborating to bring this together. So I want you all to know that this application exists in its form, but this is a collaborative space, right? Like we really want to collaborate with you all to bring this to life. So please don't be daunted if you're like, I don't have art fabricators. I don't know the way this is fully going to come to life yet. It's okay. We're going to figure it out. We may actually find the art fabricators in this group. We don't know, right? But Katie and I are, and the Huey P. Newton team, we're all here to really collaborate to bring the best concept and best representation to life with you. So please don't be afraid to submit throw your hat in the ring if you don't feel like you have everything with you right now. That was my speed round. Are there other questions? I see Cheryl's hand maybe is still up. Are there other questions that can be answered at the moment? And for folks who have to jump, I also understand.
My question was on the form. I didn't see any word count limits on your form.
At the moment, there are none, but happy to add some for you and I. You know, happy, will do. Thank you. Great suggestion. That's for you and for us. What other questions? This is the opportunity. Please don't be shy. And maybe if no questions, do folks feel more informed at this point? And feel free to let us know again in the chat or with just an emoji. Like, do you feel more informed? Do you feel more equipped to respond properly?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. So even with the submission form that I saw that is on the outline, you guys don't want any, I know it says 5 images of some previous projects, so there's no need for a proof of concept.
I think it's, some folks, I think honestly have not built anything really large at scale. And I think that if that's you, right, then I think it is helpful to attach mock-ups. That's what it says. If you have not executed public art, please attach mock-ups. Give us some visualization that's like, okay, there's something there, we can see it, right?
Right. Okay,
So.
yeah, because in my mind, I was assuming beyond just projects that were associated with this theme or like anything, because like, my projects go all the way from like theater all the way to other things. So if we're talking statue, maybe the costume design, I don't know how far of submission needs to be sent. And I'd rather just be more specific and send the proof of concept for my ideas and maybe 5 parts of that I would approach with this versus just sending old work that may not be for this campus area. Costume design and set design is similar, but not necessarily out public realism, surrealism. I could kind of know, but I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think relevance is a really good point, right? Definitely be relevant in what you're submitting. And what you just said really made me think of something that we heard from Walter Hood, who is a landscape architect, which is just like, keep in mind that this is outdoors, right? Like it is outdoors, it is on the street, like it is street, cars pass by. He was even just like particles from the air and those, right? So like that was, I was aware, I'm like, yes, it's outside, of course I know, but we're really outside at a street level. We're not in like the forest or a beautiful garden, right? Or like a park, right? This is truly public space. So
Okay.
relevance, yes, Sky, and outside, we outside like that.
We outside. Okay, yeah, for real. Yeah. Okay. So it will be more suggested to suggest things of like landscaping. Like I do hydroponics, and I think one good thing that was also mentioned by Cheryl was like the electrical portion of it all. So something that will water these plants or take care of it if it's a maintenance thing. Because I saw that also was mentioned in the qualification form is like plan for maintenance as well within your submission.
Yeah, so just a note on the maintenance stuff. We do, as the Temescal district, have a team of district ambassadors that are like cleaning and maintenance ambassadors in the district, as well as hospitality, but they already are watering the 100+ planters we have lining Telegraph Avenue, and power washing the plaza, all of that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, there's no reason for it to be like, oh, with the artist will come out every month and water my plants. It's more just thought, or giving some thought to like, if this gets vandalized, is it something that's easy enough for say one of my team to come out and repair, as opposed to something that would require fully refabricating or something like that. So definitely, like I said, with electricity, we can work out a solution, whether it's something from the street lights or the Casper's business. If it's watering, we do have ambassadors that can help with that, that are already have that sort of in their scope of work.
Okay.
So it's more just, we want to have some thought put into basically just the feasibility of the maintenance.
Okay.
And not to put that burden on the artist, but just to have that thought there from the inception.
So just provide the full vision of how you see this completely coming to life. Whatever your vision is the first submission for March the 1st. The full vision.
I would say that March the 1st mission is not your full vision. I don't think that you have to give your full vision away. I think what you really want to do on March 1st is show that you're a qualified artist to do this, that
Okay.
you thought about it, that you're like, I'm thoughtful, I'm connected. I think that's really it. I think your full vision will come out in the RFP process more.
Okay. All right.
Focus
Perfect.
on showing why you are the most qualified artist to carry this legacy and this vision forward.
Okay. Perfect. All right.
That is the focus of this section.
All right.
When will we update the word count? Happy to do it today. Gonna do that right now. Gonna do that today. Yeah.
All right, and I dropped my email in the chat, Jenna, if you want to do the same, maybe you all can feel free to reach out to us if you have more questions that come up between now and the 1st. Feel free to reach out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I know we're a little over time. Any other questions before we wrap up?
And my last encouragement to apply and to tell other artists to apply, not to be daunted by the materials, don't be daunted by the budget, don't apply, just apply. That's my last call to all of you. And think about, we talked to Walter Hood and he was just like, how can this be a disruption, right? Like, I want you all to be big and bold in your thought. And so we're in 2023, y'all. Like, we're carrying legacy forward. Like, be big, be bold, be disruptive, and apply.
And there's one more question in the chat from Christina. Let's see.
Disruption art. I think that's a Katie question, maybe.
Yeah, so I think, again, apply with any ideas that you have. The bid is like I said, a nonprofit. We're not the city. The city, because this is public use or public space, will be required, or they'll require their sign off before this can be built. But thematically, I think a lot of the things that you mentioned, like abolitionist principles, anti-capitalist principles, all of these disruptive notions, like, we recognize and understand and appreciate that is largely the foundation of the Black Panther Party and the 10-point platform. And I think that we recognize that those are very inextricable from the legacy, the movement, the work. So please don't be daunted by if you have anti-capitalist sentiments in this, or anti-abolitionist principles. I think those are great to include and really do reflect the legacy that we're trying to share. So we don't want to be, by any means censoring this. We want to make sure it's something, we'll work with you to make sure it's something that the city will sign off on. And of course, we'll have the public feedback events. So I guess that's just another thing to flag is the final concepts, when we get to that stage, will be subject to public feedback, which of course is sort of built into public art. But all of that to say that I don't think there's should be any concern about our team sort of censoring the concepts in this. It's more just what we can get the city to sign off on and the public's approval of. All right. Well, we can go ahead and wrap up then if there are no more questions. Thank you all so much for joining. We're really looking forward to reviewing all of the applications and seeing what you all can come up with and getting this rolling.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I really appreciated this, you guys.
Thank you.
Happy Black History Month, y'all.
Happy Black
do
History
it up.
Month.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you, Nigel. Good on done. How you feeling?
Good.